How easy is it to whip out this camera and just start using it whenever and wherever you want? The DJI Osmo Pocket makes it really easily accessible to get 4K footage. But there is one thing you need to start doing, and you can actually start doing this with other cameras as well, and that is shooting manual. Let me explain. What's going on, my friends? My name's Jason Morris, and today I'm going to talk about the DJI Osmo Pocket and why you should be shooting in manual. You can actually apply this to other cameras as well, so if you are a beginner, stick around because I will be going in depth with this. If you are an advanced, stick around to the end because I actually do have a giveaway that I'm going to be doing, and I'll explain it at the end of this video. That turned off. Anyway, let's go outside. That was... Don't know why it keeps doing that, but anyway, we need to discuss 3 different things that helps that exposure triangle, and that is ISO, aperture, and shutter speed. And there is another thing that actually helps with the exposure, but that comes down to screw-on thing, which is the ND filter that we got on now. Anyway, let's get into it and I'll start discussing what those 3 things are. Aperture is pretty much the iris of the lens. With most lenses, you can increase the aperture to its maximum, which makes the iris larger, thus letting more light in, and also decreases the depth of field, which can give you a more blurry background or bokeh. Making the aperture smaller, or a larger f-stop number, makes the iris smaller, which lets in less light and increases the depth of field. Now, depending on the look and feel you're going for, will determine what aperture you need. So with the DJI Osmo Pocket, this comes with a base aperture of f2.0. Unfortunately, this is not adjustable, which pretty much means that you can't adjust that aperture to get less light in. Now we need to move on to the second part of the exposure triangle. Shutter speed is quite important with photography. This gives you the choice to either capture an image at different speeds. And if you want to capture a moving image, you may need a faster shutter speed, say 1/1000th of a second. This means you'll be able to capture an image with little to no blur. The faster the shutter speed, the more you'll be able to freeze the frame. A faster shutter speed will also limit the amount of light hitting the sensor, so just be careful on how fast your shutter speed is because it will affect your exposure. Now, if this isn't making any sense at all, just rewind it because you will learn more the second time round. The slower the shutter speed, the more motion blur you'll have in an image. This can work for or against in your favor. With the slower shutter speed, this will slow the speed at which the image is captured, which means you'll need to hold the camera steady to capture the image, otherwise you'll have a blurry image from camera shake. But if you lock this off on a tripod or simply just place the DJI Osmo Pocket on the ground, you can actually get some cool motion blur techniques. But yes, there is a but. This comes with one dilemma. A slower shutter speed means the sensor is exposed to more light, thus increasing the exposure on the image, and it may leave you with an overexposed image. Yes, you could decrease the aperture to let less light in, but the DJI Osmo Pocket, this is just not adjustable. This is where ND filters come into play. With the ND filter, you can cut the amount of light that's coming into the sensor, which gives you a cool effect with images. Are you still with me? Here are some examples of what I mean. Having a slower shutter speed gives you cool light trails at night, like this. I discussed motion blur in my cinematic video, but I'll touch base on it again. It is important to keep the shutter at 180 degrees, or twice the frame rate. This gives you a correct amount of motion blur that looks natural to our eyes. Now we need to move on to the next part of the exposure triangle, which is ISO. ISO is a pretty basic aspect of the exposure triangle, but it does have a few important things you need to know. ISO stands for International Organization of Standardization. Essentially, this is the main governing body that standardizes the sensitivity ratings for camera sensors. What the ISO settings do in your camera is it allows you to increase the sensitivity to light to the sensor, therefore giving you a more exposed image. The downside is that if you increase the ISO too high, then you increase the amount of digital grain you have. Digital grain are little specks that you see in the image right here. There are some picture profiles on your camera that have a native ISO that is higher than the camera's base ISO. On some cameras, like your Sony cameras, say the Sony a7 III, you've got a picture profile that is S-Log. S-Log has a native ISO of 800. This is what actually performs the best for that picture profile. Now, the one thing with ISO level is that you need to find a happy medium when it comes to that. Otherwise, if you go too high, you're going to introduce too much grain. If you go too low, then you may be left with an underexposed image. So what do you do if you have an underexposed image? Now, the last thing you can add, which is lighting. Lighting is absolute key when it comes to exposure, and you can't adjust the aperture. God damn it. Why does it keep doing that? This is really frustrating. Anyway, you need to get external lighting. If you can't play around with your ISO, aperture, or that shutter speed, external lighting is very important to light up that scene. Just make sure you keep an eye on your histograms, because you want to make sure that you're not underexposing your shadows, you're not blowing out your highlights, and you're keeping those midtones in there nice and exposed correctly. So that is the basics of the ISO triangle. Let's get back into the studio and talk about this competition and this nice giveaway that I'll be doing. So, how does this work? I really want to get... Shit. All right. Well, I'm back in the studio. Let's talk about this giveaway that we're going to be... This is the giveaway right here. These are filters by PGY Tech for the DJI Osmo Pocket. These are incredibly useful. To get an entry into this, all you need to be doing is following my Instagram, Jason Morris Official. You also need to be subscribed to my YouTube channel. Comment below what you would use these filters for as well. Just make sure you do all that by the 1st of April. That's when I'll release a video out for the winner of this filter pack here. So that's it from me, guys. Please like this video if you could. Comment below if you found this useful. Subscribe to my YouTube channel if you already haven't. Hit that bell notification to get notified when my new videos come out. Guys, my name's Jason Morris, and I'll see you in the next video. Let's get it. Now we need to... There's a train. Assuming that's pretty loud right now. Woo, that train.